Yeah, I do, mate. Yeah, I do. It's only a marine, who cares? This time on ClaytonSpeed, I'm asking the age-old question, why did British Leyland have such rubbish metallic paint? From metallic paint peeling to metallic paint flaking, this car's got it all. Engine bay time. That's what I promised you in the last video, is to get the engine bay all prepped ready for accepting the engine, which I have yet to rebuild, which is just sat over there. I have stripped it, partially I've got it on the engine stand. There was quite a bit of silicone, orange silicone, all around the back of the oil pump. Somebody clearly was trying to seal up a leak with the most awfulest product if used in the wrong way. And it was orange, which, okay, I am a fan of, but it needs all to be stripped because I don't know where that silicone could have gone. And so that is a whole process that I've been working through, getting that engine all stripped down. The cylinder head looks pretty good. The valves look pretty good on the face of it. The bores look really good. There's no wear, significant wear on those. Hopefully it'll just be a question of putting new piston rings on it, honing the bores, giving it a good old clean up, new shells, new cam bearings, things like that, and get it all put back together again fairly quickly. The only engine that punishes you when changing the oil just leaks all down the side of the block. These 1300 engines, I mean, they're so simple, anybody can work on them, but that is on the engine stand. But now I'm going to get the car back on the ground, turned around in the garage so I can get to the engine bay. I'd usually do it where it's sat because I've got light coming in and I can see what I'm doing. However, when you film things for YouTube, you tend to find light is a real pain. So at the moment I've got the garage door shut and I'm using my video lights to light me and the car. The problem is when I come to work on stop it, then they don't care about the video inside of it. I want to show you 10 reasons why I think this car, unfortunately, is going to need a lot more paint than I originally thought. Take to find out. And remember, these 10 reasons, it's hard fact. It's hard fact why these 10 reasons exist, and I'll show you now. Number 1. Rust. Bibbly bobbly rust on the wing. That is going to need taken down to bare metal. And it's going to need some possibly filler and paint, obviously, so that needs to be sorted out. Number 2, on the bonnet, that's looking all rusty as well. We'll just ignore that. Right, so yeah, the bonnet needs doing, the wing needs doing, both sides. I've cut back the passenger side, but the passenger side is showing a lot of imperfections in it because of the type of paint this car was painted in, and I'll get onto that in a minute. Number 2, no, we're done number 2. Number 3, scuttle. You can see it's very grey where it's faded. I actually cleaned the other side and that came out really well, but again, imperfections. But the main issue with the scuttle is these little rust spots. So again, they need to be removed. So that panel's got to be painted. So at the moment we've got 3 panels needing to be painted. Number 4, driver's side door. If this was the right type of paint, we could probably get away with it in doing a blow and repair. Number 5, rear door. Exactly the same on the top of this edge. As you can see, spidering, that needs to be sorted as well. If it was the right type of paint, we could probably blow it in, but it's not the right type of paint. And again, I'll come on to that. Number 6, quarter panel. Scars in it. Is that original? No, it's not. They weren't built with scars, so that's going to need work. It's a metallic paint, but it's the type of metallic paint that it is. It means I can't easily just blow it in. Number 7, the boot lid. It actually isn't bad, but again, you see these scars all over it in really flat areas as well, so that's going to need to be sorted. Bird poo. Number 8, rear lamp panel. Now the rear lamp panel is peeling. Peely. Let's say that was 8. Why have I got 6? Oh, it's 9. Number 9. This rear quarter panel has had touch-ins on these scars and they look horrible. There's obviously scratches from storage. Going down underneath though, a little bit of rust down there that I need to treat. Probably put a little patch in, not too sure yet. That's number 9. And then number 10, bottom of the arch, bit flaky, a bit bubbly. Need to treat that. But again, it's a whole panel. I can't do a blow-in. Again, you can see the spidering on the paint, which is original, you'd say. It's not original. They did not come out of the factory with spiders on them, unless they've been sat around for a while. Different type of spider. And obviously under the arch, you can see this all needs treating. So that's number 10. Ben, you do realise you've put more stickers on down here. More than 10? There isn't 10. There's more than 10. Oh, where? Okay, 10A. So this is where I repaired it on the last video. That needs to be body filled, that needs to be primered and painted, feathered and all the rest of it. That trim needs to come off to be able to do that. There's a bit down the front that needs to be sorted. Okay, 10A. Oh, what's that? 10B. So this is where I cut back the top of this wing. So it looks really good from afar, but if you look, the imperfections in the paint. It's onto the scuttle as well. That is how this side was originally. So I cleaned it and compounded it and then cut it back, but you can see how this has gone. Now this is because of the type of paint used. This paint was a single stage metallic, so effectively it was a gloss, and obviously for the production value of the car it was for simplicity, to get it done quickly. Got imperfections when you're sanding it because it's so thin. Now the only way of fixing this that I can see is to go back to basics. We don't have to go to bare metal, it doesn't need that, but each panel has to be treated separately, and we have to make sure that paint below is sealed off first, because otherwise we're going to get some massive reactions. Not good. More stickers. 10C. So this is the bonnet, and you can see I've marked, and I've actually wheeled a few of these just to sort of try and see how deep it is. It's very badly pitted, but it hasn't rotted, it's not gone through, so we're okay. I think we can treat that as I can feel a dimple there. Same on that one, that needs to be straightened up first. Pretty much that bonnet. Oh, 10 again. I would put another bonnet on it if I had another bonnet. I don't have another bonnet, so I think we'll have to try and repair this. If you look underneath the bonnet, so look at that, it's holding up on its own. It was undersealed and I can't see any rust appearing, so I think we'll be okay reusing the bonnet. I've seen a lot worse. Wow, not all of them did that. I found out the numbers now. Yeah, so the edges of this wing, where it's probably had a stone chip at some point in its life and the rust got into it, again it's spidering, and you can see why I've actually sanded down. I don't know if you can see that very well. That's where it's so you can see the outline of the spider. I can't get rid of it. That is on metal, and you can see that sanding has shown the primer. That is primer, that is not lacquer, that is not paint, that is sanded down to the primer. So it's a bit more of a bigger job than I thought it was going to be, but I'm up for the challenge. I think it'd be fun, I think it'd be exciting, it'd be riveting for YouTube. Riveting.
I can't stop telling lies to me, myself and I. No matter how I try to medicate or meditate, the truth will always die. A loaded gun, a setting sun. Yeah, my daddy was the same.
Yes, why did they have such rubbish paint? It was metallic paint especially, and this car was painted in the exact stuff. And this is the reason this car needs more paintwork than I originally thought. I just wanted to go over the type of epoxy primer I've used to paint the floor pan on the repair I did in the last video. Now if you haven't seen that last video, click whichever side it is to watch that first. There's 2 videos before this one. Get an idea of where we're up to on this Mk2 Marina Special. But the floor pan I've painted in a 1K epoxy primer. That is a wet on wet system. Okay, so wet on wet means that after it's been sprayed, you have a window of opportunity of putting a top coat on or a high build primer on onto the epoxy, and that window differentiates between products. So what I'm doing now is just, it's everywhere this thing, airlined out. I'm going to put a bit of wax and grease remover, U-Pole wax and grease remover on a microfiber, go over it, and then I'm going to put a bit of base coat on from a can that I've had sat around for a while. So we'll see how this reacts, but hopefully no reaction, and hopefully we'll make it look a little bit better, and then we can look at that for doing the rest of the floor pan on the repair on the driver's side when it comes to it. You can actually feel when you're doing this, you can actually feel how rough the surface is. So hopefully the paint will stick quite well to that. Let's say it is a base coat, which obviously usually you'd put a lacquer on the top of. But as it's the floor, I'm not going to bother because nobody's ever going to see it. Unless they want to look at my lovely work. And we'll get the base coat ready. Well, it's been 2 minutes. This can's a bit old. We're getting lodges. Probably not a good idea to use paint that's been sat in the boot of a car for the last 15 years. But it's only the floor pan. Looks fine, but it's on the floor, so not too sure if it is a base coat. Vision cellulose. This could be the type of paint that the car was originally painted in, because usually on a tin like this it would actually say base coat. So maybe it is that awful stuff apparently, according to my good friend Frank Phillips of Austin Morris Services on the Isle of Wight, and my other good friend Colin Arrowsmith of Arrowsmith and Sons, both of which have good experience of using all sorts of paint on cars of this age, way back 70s, 80s, 90s. Yeah, the type of paint this car was originally painted in was a one coat system, and that would make sense back in the 70s where they were trying to get stuff pushed through really quickly, but of course it also meant it had a lot of warranty issues. So yeah, it's not the greatest stuff.
Paint warranty issues. Well, after speaking to a couple of guys who actually worked at some of the dealerships for British Leyland, selling not just the Marinas but the Allegros, the MGs, the Triumphs, all that, the mid-70s metallic paint seemed to have a little bit of an issue. Now I've noticed on this car, when I've been looking at the engine bay, on one side we've got a really light colour and on the other side was a bit darker, and on the lighter side the paint effectively was nothing. It just came off. You just hit it with a bit of Scotch Brite or a DA and it just went to bare metal. Passenger side was the worst affected, and also around the radiator. Now why might that be? Well, I'll tell you why it is. Obviously those are the two areas that you're going to have more heat. So passenger side you're going to have more exhaust heat, around the radiator you're going to have cooling heat. And that is what's happened. The paint has reacted on the heat and has basically disintegrated. This car has done it's done low mileage, but I can't find the clock. Right, it's only done 36,000 miles from new. Now, that's not a lot of miles. This car's been off the road a long time, but imagine having a car that might have only done 10,000 miles and all the paint's starting to come off. Not good luck. But the problem was, when they came to do the rectification work, because this paint isn't a base clear, they may have tried to fix it by just sticking lacquer over it, and lacquer has to go on a base coat within probably half an hour of it being laid down. So, warranty issues. On the outside of the car, we can't use this, there's no way. One, for the fact that this can is probably about 20 years old. There you go, 2001. Don't use old paint, Ben. It's on the floor, nobody will see it. Bloody awful that is. Awful paint. Blodgy. I would not have been happy if I used that on an outside panel. It's that you won't see it. It's actually blended in quite nicely on the rear. So the colour match is not great, but at the same time it's not bad. Probably considering that the paint, when they painted it inside, it was just like, yeah, I'll do mate. Yeah, I'll do. It's only a Marina, who cares? It's time to take the bonnet off. I can't work on it with the bonnet up in the air. So I'm going to get the bonnet off, I'm going to start clearing out all the engine bay of all that gear so I can get in there. But we're not going to use that spray type. We're going to use probably a 2K system to paint this. And this needs to be absolutely right. If I'm going to do it right, because I want to sell the car for good money and somebody to have a good classic car to take to shows and be happy to pop the bonnet and show the engine bay. Aim high. Aim high.
Take a lucky break if you rubbed it in my face. Go away. Liar, liar, pants on fire. If you ever need a friend, just call me and I'll pretend.
Right,
This car hasn't been on the road for a long time, but I wonder what vintage the windscreen washer fluid is. Oh yes. Oh, ooh. Yeah. Yeah, it's old, horrible windscreen washer fluid.
Get some windscreen washer fluid.
Right, have you ever had a stuck screw that's rusted solid and it's tiny as anything, and you just know you're going to round the head, cut it off, and then you're going to have to drill it out, and you're going to have to tap it? Well, secret sauce from Ben. Yes. Oh, I've left it over there, hold on. So this is my mix of transmission fluid and acetone. Mix on a 50-50, shaken up into a little spray bottle, squirt it on the screw that's causing you grief. Oh, helps you open the valve, Ben. There we go. Leave that to soak for as long as you can, at least 20 minutes, depending on how stuck your screw is. And then, with like magical bit of wishful thinking, with your best trusty screwdriver, put it on, and if it won't go, another trick you can do, trusty screwdriver, little hammer. Obviously this is saying that you can actually access it, and just tap it. Four taps is a guaranteed result, and then look at that, as if by magic. Ooh, the screw comes out, baby. Oh yes. Secret sauce from Ben.
I'm wondering if the seal around the scuttle is hiding something, because if it is, it only means one thing.
Okay, bit of evidence here. Oh dear. Oh, crunchy. Crunchy! Oh dear. Oops.
It's not a good look, is it, to have rust on your scuttle?
Yeah.
Need to fix that. It's not stopping me doing this job, but it will have to be done. That is pretty bad. For now, I just need to get the brake servo off, the rest of the wiring loom back through the car, and washer bottle plate thingy. Take that off. And then the whole thing needs degreasing, but before I do that, there's some seam sealer which they always put underneath the wing on both sides, which usually if you press it, I'm pressing it, it's rusted, but this hasn't rusted, thankfully. Flamer time! Because if it had, that was an absolute of a pig of a job to do. It's the only real way of getting the underseal off from underneath these areas is a bit of that. This on here, which you can see, that I'm sure is just glue that was supposed to glue on the bulkhead pad. Didn't do a very good job. But obviously that is going to have an issue when we come to painting, because paint won't stick to that, so that's all got to come off. Hopefully it won't be too difficult to get. Carcheology? No, I think that's something different, Ben. Carology? Carcheology. It's not carcheology. I'm going to degrease it first. I probably should have degreased it before I took the big piece that, you know, covers the hole. Degrease it.
I think something's been living in me pipework. Inside the undergrowth of the Morris Marina, we decided to find the lesser known hiding place of a small mammal in the heater pipe. Oh dear.
Right, I got bare metalled all the areas where there was rust, cleaned all that up. I've got some thinners onto the glue and the contact adhesive that was on the bulkhead, that's all gone. I've cleaned up the chassis rails with some thinners as well, just to get rid of some of the underseal that's been sprayed over from underneath. There's a little bit more to get off of the front cross member and a bit around the suspension mount. Right, factory paint runs on a British Leyland car. Check this out. Yeah, I'm convinced that is a factory paint run. Look at that. What I've also done is I've gone around with my DA sander on an 80 on the bare metal, then up to a 180, just to feather in on the paint, because I've used a strip disc and they can be quite hard edges, which you don't want obviously when you're trying to cover a paint area. So I've feathered in
with a 180 onto those little areas. Because if I can get it right here, then when I come to paint a panel on the car, we can get it right there as well. So using my engine bay as my test bed, if you like, for my paint preparation and my feathering and all the rest of it. This doesn't need any filler. They never filled them from new. It was just basically a primer and a top coat. So that is what we will do here, except it will be a primer, a top coat and a lacquer. Make it look shiny, make it look nice, like a jewellery box. And then we'll put a 1300 engine, which will be the jewel of this car, and make it all look pretty. The paint was put on so thinly. Don't have to be Concord, mate. Hence why on this area and the area on the bulkhead has literally gone the same way. Now obviously you won't see it underneath that bulkhead pad, but I want to make it look great. So I'm thinking I've got to treat some rust over there, I've got to treat some rust over here. Then I'm thinking we'll get it all in primer, some lovely grey epoxy primer. Scuff it up, scuff the bulkhead up, mask it up, epoxy it. Get on with it.
Well, that was going to be the plan, wasn't it? But no, the steel turned up, so that's great. I can get on and fix the bulkhead now.
We've got to fix the rusty scuttle panel. Now there's multiple ways to do this. Hopefully not me at this angle the whole time, because it's quite uncomfortable. Multiple ways to do this.
So what I could do is replace the scuttle panel. I think I'm mad. I could replace it because I have access to a scuttle panel. But the scuttle panel includes not only the scuttle, it also includes the windscreen aperture. Way overkill for what this repair needs.
But I'm going for the quick and easy option, but isn't a bodge, and I'll show you why.
It's just a question of cutting off the old rot. That just took seconds because it is literally just cutting through rust, really thin steel. Then I just carefully went over with a flat disc to make sure that there was no more lip. It was completely gone. Again, gently went over that. Perfect. Filed all that down so it's nice and flush. Took the wire brush underneath, got rid of any sort of slag that might have been resting under there, because we do not want anything to be in the way of that sandwiched piece of steel that goes back on the car. Now what I have to do is go around and work out where I'm going to plug this to the original scuttle plate. I've got 4 clamps per side on my repair piece. I've got to cut the centre where it overlaps to make sure that it joins perfectly, and then I can make sure that all that is plug welded back to the existing scuttle plate. You won't even know I've been there.
It's easy peasy to do. Flat steel, 15mm by 15, literally is pre-bent, cut a couple of slots in it where it bends round. I made it in 2 pieces, actually helped me in the long run. Epoxy, seam seal it, paint it. Once the seal's on, you never know it's been there. That's actually really good. That's actually, I'm really pleased with that. It's a nice bit of steel. Lovely, look at that. I'm going to be honest with you now, it did go a little bit wrong with the scuttle panel repair. I'm blaming my welder, bless it. It just wouldn't strike an arc. Had a bit of an issue with that. I think it's time for a service, but what it meant was it didn't penetrate right through to the steel, and as such half of the repair fell off, so I had to redo that. So that did happen. It was totally unscripted. Well, that's it. Thank you very much for watching. If you haven't already liked and subscribed, please consider doing so. Also, make sure you press the bell for notifications, because it will tell you when I upload a video, which at the moment is about every other week on a Sunday at 5 o'clock. But let me know in the comments. Let me know what you want to see. Let me know what you want to do. What do you want to do? Do you want to go? Do you want to go? It's near the end. You can go. Ask questions in the comments down below, and I'll see you next time. Thank you.